listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shamaya Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shamaya Reed.
Hey, welcome to I Am Refocused Radio. We are here once again today. We have a true honor talking to our special guest. He is the owner and founder of an amazing coaching service. You can go to his website. It's tliftcoaching.com. Transformational Lift Coaching is where he does amazing work with amazing clients. And you, the listener, are going to get a lot out of this because not only does he does that, but he's also a 23-year service with the U.S. Navy. So he retired at the rank of commander. I want to thank him for his service. And first and foremost, thank you for your time, Walt. How you doing?
Yeah, Shamaya, I am really well. And thank you for allowing me to be a part of this. I'm so grateful for the service that you offer to your audience, connecting them with resources to be their best selves. So I am so happy to be a part of that. Thank you.
Yes, sir, man. And before we talk a little bit about your business, Transformational Lift Coaching, kind of give us your experience with the U.S. Navy and how that might play a role in making your decision to launch your business.
Yeah. So if you were to go to my childhood bedroom on a ranch in rural Oregon, where my mom still lives, you'd see hanging on the wall of that bedroom a picture I drew when I was 5. It's a picture of a helicopter, and it says, when I grow up, I want to be a helicopter pilot. So true to that, I attended the University of Colorado on a Navy ROTC scholarship, and followed that path to flight school and became a helicopter pilot. And honestly, I want to honor the service members and their families who have truly sacrificed. We all sacrifice to a degree, and often our families sacrifice more than the service members. And there are those service members who I think sacrifice more. They sacrifice their physical health, their emotional health, their spiritual health, and sometimes their lives. And when I talk about my service, it's just something I really enjoyed. So it's maybe a slightly different category. I loved to deploy. I love to fly helicopters off of ships. I love to fly in general and do missions. And I love squadrons and the group of people I got to work with. So my military service really I feel really thankful to the taxpayers for allowing me to engage in my military service in that way. And it was something I really enjoyed, and it's something that I felt I was good at. And in the last 4 years of my military service, I was actually assigned to the University of Colorado at Boulder, and I'm still in Boulder now, and in the role of an associate professor teaching leadership and management at the university. And it was during those 4 years, I just became so intrigued by leadership. Before that, I thought I had leadership figured out, right? Like I had been designated to lead teams anywhere from 20 people to 250 people. And I'd done that, and I felt I'd been successful in that. We achieved our objectives. I tried to take care of people. So I thought this leadership thing I had wired. And only when I got into the classroom environment and I was exploring leadership with my students did I realize how limited my understanding of leadership really was. And I got really excited by that. I got really excited by not knowing and the learning. So much so that at the end of 4 years of doing that, it came time for me to retire from the Navy. And I decided what I wanted to do was not what I was supposed to do. What I was supposed to do is go to the airlines. That's where my squadron mates were, flying commercially, or maybe go to defense contracting, which is full of people that have resumes that look really similar to mine. And I felt a calling or a nudge from the universe, and I listened. And it was something about leadership development. That's what I was supposed to do. That's what I heard. That's what I felt. So I marketed myself as a leadership development specialist. And and you can only imagine how they were beating down my door for my services. That actually took a little while to find a fit. And a Fortune 200 healthcare company brought me on board, and I was with them for over 3 years. But this company was fantastic in their culture and how they approached leadership development and human development. It was very, very heart-centric, and it was very emotionally forward. I was realizing at that time that I had neglected my emotional development and my spiritual development for decades. I left the military very good at thinking and doing, but I was incomplete, and I didn't know it until I stepped into that work. So if the previous 4 years had been a really kind of steep intellectual exploration of leadership, the next number of years were really a steep period of growth for my emotional and spiritual self. And that became very important in what I do now. And at some point, that company sent me to coaching schools, specifically Integral Coaching in Canada, which is the founders of Integral Coaching. And I knew immediately that's what that nudge from the universe was. That's where I was supposed to go. That's what I was supposed to be doing. So shortly thereafter, I set up shop, and I've been an independent coach now for 4 years.
And with that said, with your brand that you do, people go to your website, tliftcoaching.com, to learn about your brand, Transformational Lift Coaching. Kind of explain to the audience, what are the kind of people that you're wanting to coach, so that people can know if they are a good fit for you and you for them?
Yeah, I have a friend who's very, very talented in business. She's a photographer. She's a very talented photographer and very talented in business. And she knows exactly who her people are. She knows where they shop. She knows what kind of clothes they wear. And she knows what font they use. And she has told me that she knows when she opens up an email, she knows within one sentence whether or not she's going to take them on as a client. So I'll be honest, Shemaiah, I've been, for a long time, I was really sheepish in that I couldn't name my clients that way. And then it occurred to me I was framing it wrong. It doesn't matter what car or what font my clients drive or use, and it doesn't matter where they shop. There's only one thing that matters for the people that I coach and support in their leadership and personal journeys, and that's their willingness. That's it. That's the only thing. I coach people who are willing to grow, who want to grow, who are excited about the process. And lots of times, yes, they feel stuck in their life, or maybe they are looking around the bend to something that they want to be able to do better to support the next phase of their life. But at the end of the day, the thing that matters is they want to grow. They're ready for growth. And that's it. That is exactly who my clients are.
When it comes to being part of the veteran community, I know it's on your website, you have a tab for veteran group programs and veteran transition coaching. someone who may be a veteran themselves and they're hearing this show, San Antonio is known for a military city here in San Antonio. Mm-hmm. What's a good way for them to learn more about those resources that you have on your website?
Yeah. One, contact me. If you go to the website and hit contact, I am excited to talk about you and your journey and your hopes and your trajectory. And specifically, if you're a veteran, I always go out of my way for veterans. I'm going to tell you something, Shemaiah. I'm going to make myself really vulnerable here. So I stay busy with my business, and I have a great group of clients. About 3/4 of them are the executive kind. About a quarter are people just found me and are paying me out of pocket. I put up that veterans transition package maybe 2 years ago as an offer. Not a single veteran has taken advantage of that. So again, that's the vulnerability. I have this service on my website that nobody's taken advantage of, and it's okay, right? It's this greatly discounted offer, and I'm waiting for that veteran I can serve in their journey. And I have a very, the approach itself will be driven by the needs of the veteran. But in general, the service is about, it's about understanding the narrative of your service. It's about recognizing those things that you needed in the service that you don't need anymore. And those things that you learned in the service that you still need and that still benefit you. And finally, it's about acknowledging the gaps. And that was, I'll be honest, that was a really tough thing in my own transition. I thought I could do anything, right? I think in the Navy in particular, we look at our officers with this lens of any officer can do any job without any training. And I see that across the services, and I see that across the ranks, that we expect our service members just to figure it out. Mm-hmm. And because I had that, I didn't think I had any real gaps in my own development. And it was only through experience in the corporate world and being out of the service did I realize how much I really did have to grow after the military. It was actually a real surprise for me. And sometimes just identifying those gaps from where we are right now as a veteran to where we want to be can be a really powerful and useful conversation.
Once again, talking to our guest today, Walt Morgan. You can go to his website, tlivcoaching.com, and let's touch on that a little bit. When your personal experience transitioning from the military to civilian life, being able to make that successful transition, have your own business, giving back to your community, teaching at universities, when it comes to the employer perspective, what's some ways that companies can create open channels for those who are veterans so that the transition can be easier for them who are highly skilled to match skill sets for these corporations?
That is the greatest question. Thank you so much for asking that. And I think the first thing that businesses can do to support transitioning veterans is to not create the single story about that veteran, because veterans are so diverse in their experience. Whether, one, just look at service culture, right? The Army culture is very different from the Navy, from the Air Force, from the Marine Corps. And then what was it that they did in the military will very much shape not only their skill set, but their own personal journey and development. And at what level did they serve in that capacity also really matters. I'll give an example. When I was in the healthcare industry, the company I worked for had 2,500 healthcare clinics across the nation. I realized pretty quickly that people who had left the service at the ranks of E7 or E8 were so good. Didn't matter what service they were in. They were so good at running those clinics consistently. I saw it time and time and time again. Like where civilians in general really struggled to manage the people with that right line of directiveness and of love and caring, but maybe and clarity and really willing to roll up their sleeves and get into the weeds. Sometimes, and there are some very good civilians, of course, that did that very, very well, but the consistency of the E7s and the E8s in that role was just beautiful. They were so good at that. I will tell you, I could not have done that job. Like I didn't have that ability to work with people in operations in that really direct way. I couldn't have done that job. So the answer was that was a good job for veterans, but it's a very good job for a certain type of veteran. So the first thing is understand your veteran, understand the service they were in, understand what it was they did and the skills that they developed, and really be open to that would be my invitation to anybody employing veterans. And finally, don't forget the human being, right? Because each of us is such a beautiful, unique, complex thing. Please don't allow that to get lost in the label of veteran. There's a human that brings their own beautiful strengths above and beyond, that transcends their military service as well. So that's one thing. Is just get to know them and understand them with openness. I think that would be the first thing. And then what else can I offer? Creating affinity groups for veterans can be really useful. I do a corporate program, and this is one that has been taken advantage of quite a bit. I do a corporate program in which I just work with a room of veterans for typically 2 or 3 days and have the veteran conversation. And corporations that invest in their veterans in that way build loyalty. But the other thing is, veterans don't necessarily, in my observation, talk to civilians the way they talk to each other. And there might be something really important for that veteran to share, but they don't feel maybe that the audience is available. But when we get in that group and hold space for each other, the things that our veterans are willing to say and willing to share are so honest and so powerful and so necessary. I would invite any company to create space for their veterans to have that kind of conversation and time together.
Once again, talking to Walt Morgan and speaking on leadership. That's the focus of your brand when it comes to personal transformation plus knowing how to lead and understanding what that actually means. When you start with someone on day one, what does that look like after you got to know them and after they got to know you? And everyone's case is different, but what are some of the starting points, foundational things that you do to begin that process?
Yeah, the very first thing we do is spend an hour and a half together exploring what it is that they want to be able to do better. And we go deep on that. Like where they are at the beginning of that is seldom where we are an hour and a half later. What is it that you'd like to do better? Why is that important? What would that enable in your life? How would that make you create greater impact through your life? How would that make your life more fulfilling? How would that create more authentic relationships, right? But what is that one thing that you would like to be able to do better? And this is a big thing. Typically it's, a reasonably large thing. It's, to better move into action more quickly on details so that I can be more productive in my day. Or it's to create warmer and more authentic relationships so that I can work collaboratively to get things done. Or it is to listen to and hear my inner voice so that I can set firmer boundaries and lead more confidently. Every client has a different topic. Every program is tailored to that client. But that first conversation is, what is it that is most important to you to be able to do better? And then once that's named crisply and clearly, the entire coaching program orients itself to that outcome so that 6 months later, a transformation has occurred and that individual, that client, is able to do that thing because it has become embodied and it's become sustainable and organic to them.
With your experience being part of the military life and career, what is a special skill set that you had developed during your time there that you find very valuable that maybe people in general can learn to adopt?
Yeah, I think it's a good question because I hear people who are transitioning from the military or in the military saying, oh yeah, coaching is a big part of my job. And I'll be honest, in 23 years in the military, I never saw anything that I would describe as coaching specifically that I witnessed or participated in. Mentoring, yes. Guiding, yes. But not coaching as I understand coaching. So learning coaching wasn't something I learned in the military. It was something that is definitely something that I learned outside. I think what allowed me to become a coach and the thing that I carried was just getting my butt kicked enough times, being scared enough times at dark nights on the ship, being in service to others, being in conflict with others, being in threat environments, seeing the entire world. All of that contributed to who I am and the failures and the successes around that made me sufficiently well-rounded so that I can more deeply serve others, right? That was the big part of my transition, I think, was we call military service. And I think a lot of service members embrace that more fully and wholly than I did when I was in the military service. I think I was having a good time. And there was certainly some sacrifice. But it was when I left the military that I truly learned to deeply serve others with just an intention to put myself to the side. But I couldn't have done that without my time in the service. And I'd say one other thing that I feel really serves me is just remembering to have a good time, to have some fun, right? Like you work really hard at sea. You're out there, you're getting 4 hours of sleep a night. You're just always on edge and exhausted. And then you pull into port and you go out and you have a good time. And coaching itself can be kind of heavy work. And I think my foundation in the military reminded me to always bring levity and humor to my sessions and engagements with clients, and to not forget, man, this is such a beautiful life that we've been given. And let's remember to have fun with that. Let's, and for me, not getting too caught up in the weightiness of the coaching, and just having fun, I think, finds its foundation in the military as well.
And with that said, when you said the word serving, I think that's a key ingredient, because when it comes to team culture, whether it's company, corporate life, if it's family life, if it's friend life, if it's military life, it kind of goes hand in hand. How important is having that idea of serving the next guy?
Yeah, it's everything. It is everything. I did a series of LinkedIn articles recently. So I'm here in Boulder. I'm a longtime ticket holder for the University of Colorado Buffs for multiple sports, including football. And I've been watching this Coach Prime phenomenon with just admiration. It's, to me, and I know he's not for everyone, and that's okay. I am so enamored with what he has done in this role. He's made it bigger than football, right? It's not like, we're going to lose some football games, but this is bigger than that. It is bigger. It's about our town and our community, and really it's about who's represented in the game, and maybe who's historically been underrepresented, and bringing that to light. So all of that to say is, I experience Coach Prime, and again, not everybody has to, as a really powerful leader. But the last post in that series was lessons learned from Coach Prime, is that excellence is not enough. And it's a funny thing to say, because I used to think that excellence transcends. If you can be excellent in something, it becomes a transcendent experience. And maybe that's a little bit true, but it's also an insufficient experience. So if you look at Coach Prime, back when he was Deion Sanders, the player, he was possibly the greatest to ever play the game at his position. Famously, he has played in Super Bowls and World Series. Nobody else has done that. He's scored touchdowns in the NFL in 6 different ways, which is mind-boggling to me. So he achieved excellence. Yet in 1997, at the height of his excellence, he tried to commit suicide. He attempted suicide by driving his car off a cliff. So excellence was not enough for him. So watching Coach Prime pick himself up from that and learn to serve something bigger than himself spiritually and in community, and finding that difficult challenge that's bigger than him and serving it wholeheartedly, is a lesson very much for me also, right? Service is only service at scale. Like when we serve something larger than ourselves, so much larger than ourselves, does its impact become profound.
Man, great words, man. Once again, talking to our guest, Walt Morgan. You can go visit his website, learn everything about his services and his brand. It is tliftcoaching.com. Once again, I want to say thank you, Walt, for your service. And what's the best way our audience can have a call to action to support what you do?
Yeah, one, the call to action in I know that's about me and my business, but I would invite everyone to put the phones and the electronics down for a few minutes a day and just be comfortable being with yourselves. And finding you deserve to be with yourself. You deserve to connect with yourself. So the first call to action is the personal one, right? I just invite you to honor yourself by spending time in the quiet and the reflection. And then if you would like to have a conversation, if you would like to discuss leadership, veterans transition, coaching, personal coaching, executive coaching, any of it, please visit the website that you so kindly referenced, Shemaiah, tliftcoaching.com. Hit the contact button, reach out to me, and let's have a conversation. I'd be delighted to talk to you.
Once again, talking to Walt Morgan on I Am Refocused Radio. I want to say again, thank you for your time.
All right. Thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of this, Shemaiah. This has been wonderful.